This is RTV6 News at 7, working for you.
Good evening to you. Here at 7 o'clock, I'm Mark Mullins.
And I'm Amanda Starantino. First tonight, a look at the latest COVID-19 data report from the State Department of Health. An additional 884 positive COVID cases were recorded between July 31st and yesterday. 25 additional deaths took place between July 22nd and yesterday. More than 75,000 positive cases have been recorded in Indiana since the pandemic began. At the latest count, 964 people across the state are currently hospitalized with COVID-19.
The Big Ten and Pac-12 conferences are postponing fall sports, including football, because of the pandemic. Both leagues hope to play in the spring. In his statement, Big Ten Conference Commissioner Kevin Warren cites potential medical risks as the main reason for the decision to postpone. Warren says the Big Ten consulted with infectious disease experts on how to best keep student athletes safe. He acknowledges the move is disappointing for athletes, staff, and fans, but pledges to get teams back to competition as soon as it is safe.
A long-awaited announcement from former Vice President. This afternoon, he chose Senator Kamala Harris as his running mate in the 2020 presidential election. ABC's Alex Perseid explains the history behind this pair and how Democratic leaders are reacting to this announcement.
So we knew this pick for a vice president was coming, but the Biden campaign had been pretty tight-lipped about who it was actually considering and who it was ultimately going to choose. This afternoon, we got word that Joe Biden has selected the junior senator from California, Kamala Harris, to be his running mate. Now, Biden had promised early on to select a woman as his running mate, but given some of the headlines and also recent events, the backdrop of racial tensions, also some of the cries for social change here, there were speculations that Biden would also select a woman of color. Now, Harris checks both of those boxes. Senator Harris is both black and an Indian American. Now, the two were fierce rivals early on in this campaign. Harris challenged Biden in one of the first debates over busing. After she dropped out, she did campaign for Biden. And we also saw recently Biden's notes about Harris not to hold grudges. Senator Nancy Pelosi writing, Joe Biden's naming of Senator Harris as the Democratic nominee for vice president marks a historic and proud milestone for the country. Alex Perseid, ABC News, Washington.
Kevin Gregory joins us now with a look at the forecast. We're in a much different situation at this hour than we were just about 24 hours ago, Kevin.
It was intimidating yesterday evening, and there are still some without power this evening, but far fewer numbers, obviously, and some cleanup from yesterday's storms. This is out in Montgomery County, the view as the storms arrived in Newmarket. Thanks to Becca Joe for sharing that picture. Much calmer, quieter night in progress and on the way overnight. Dry, it stays humid. Patchy fog will develop overnight. I think it's most likely in the southern portion of the area. There's the view looking to the north in Indianapolis. Clouds will hang with us a bit tonight. We'll call it partly cloudy overall. And that may have an impact on your view of the Perseid meteor shower. More on that in a second. Dry the next 2 days, or the rain chance 20% or less. So obviously it works in your favor that you stay dry. Temperatures in the low 80s now. Upper 70s around some of the rest of the metro area. Temperatures down to the south in the mid to upper 80s closer to the Ohio River. We'll talk about Perseid meteor showers and the change in the pattern for next week coming up.
Looking forward to it, Kevin. Thank you. A local organization is working to address food insecurity in the community, and it'll soon be ramping up its efforts thanks to the United Way's Central Indiana COVID Economic Relief Fund. ProAct received $35,000 from that fund, and the money is being used to build a mobile food pantry. RTV6 teamed up with the United Way to encourage donations to the fund. RTV6's Megan Sanctorum shows us how your donations are being put to good use.
Inside Shepherd Community Center, you'll find volunteers and a whole lot of food. Food that's being packaged up and will soon go to a family in need.
The need is immense. We have served over 5,000 families since March.
Today, ProAct teamed up with the Shepherd Community Center to package 400 boxes of meals. Those meals will be distributed here this week, and some will be home delivered.
Because a lot of families can't leave their homes, or they don't have transportation to come to get the resources that they need.
And soon, they'll be able to deliver food to even more people throughout Marion County. ProAct plans to use their C-Surf funding to renovate a 28-seat passenger bus. This bus will be transformed into a mobile food pantry and used to help meet the growing need in the community.
There's a greater need than people would even imagine for this.
Paul Washington says he knows firsthand how important this service is.
Well, we actually received a couple packages because we kind of got caught in that pocket of need.
He says he's benefited from the work of organizations like ProAct and Shepherd Community Center. So now he volunteers here to give back.
You find a way to live for something that's bigger than you, and you realize through interactions you have a real impact on people's lives, and they're able now to impact other people's lives in more positive ways too.
Something ProAct founder Darren Slack says happens frequently, and at the end of the day, they're providing more than just a meal.
When someone stands in the gap for you, it encourages you to do the same for someone else. And so that's what we've seen. We've seen people step up and be volunteers if they get back on their feet. And it's just a wonderful thing to see this come full circle for a lot of families.
Working for you, Megan Sanctorum, RTV6.
ProAct leaders say they also partner with other local organizations and food pantries, and the bus will help them with deliveries as well. We'll have much more information for you on ProAct and their services at our website, theindychannel.com.
The COVID-19 pandemic seems to be sparking a trend when it comes to people acting on impulse. RTV6's Troy Washington is working for you to explain there's a spike in trauma cases at some emergency rooms to back up that claim.
We had a record June with over 400 trauma which is the most we've had in 5 years.
Trauma means crash injuries. Serious falls are traumatic brain injuries stemming from serious accidents. And what's different these days is the global crisis, putting people in a space they've never been in before. Doctors say numbers started to spike this summer, and it looks like people are just desperate to get out and get going.
That's significant because patients are coming in severely injured. And I think some of that is people are out and about and being outside much more. And so a lot of my recommendations are to, in addition to taking care of your health, also try and avoid risky behaviors.
It's not just the physical trauma that plays a role, it's also the mental trauma of it all. Therapeutic Rose practice owner Darian Rose explains how we arrived to this place in the first place.
When you take away a privilege of freedom of going out and doing things, and you therefore have to replace it. So people are replacing it by doing all these crazy things.
According to him, it's all mental before it becomes physical and just a way to cope through the pandemic.
It's an unseen enemy. And because we can't see it, we don't know how to fight it. And that's the same thing that goes on with trauma, PTSD. I'm not surprised to see a spike in it at all.
He says everyone has their vices and people typically have an outlet, but with all the restrictions, he believes people are being pushed to react impulsively.
Wear your seatbelts when you're driving, wear your bike helmets when you're riding bikes, wear your helmets when motorcycles.
She insists that just taking some extra steps and moments to reflect on being more cautious during these times can make all the difference. Working for you, Troy Washington, RTV6.
And the therapist we spoke with describes it as a form of acting out. He explains it could be caused from exhaustion linked to surviving a pandemic.
Still ahead on the news at 7 here, with so many Hoosiers looking for a job, one industry is hoping to fill its need for workers. How our group is making it easier to start an entirely new career path.
This is RTV6 News at 7, working for you.
Our Hiring Hoosiers initiative works to keep you up to date on training opportunities that could lead to a better career. One industry still looking for workers is the multifamily industry. And as RTV6's Lauren Casey reports, the Indiana Apartment Association is launching a new apprenticeship program to give you the skills that you need to become a service technician.
When we started this program, the whole training, the world was very different. So we hope we will be able to find even more people to train now that the unemployment rate is so high.
An initiative to get more skilled workers in their industry during a time of high employment in our state has taken a turn in the recent months as more and more Hoosiers find themselves without a job. A new training program provides new opportunity to break into an industry that's still busy through this pandemic.
There are all kinds of openings in our industry as a lot of people have a lot of openings for service technicians.
Lynn Peterson is the president of the Indiana Apartment Association, or IAA. The association represents owners and managers of more than 250,000 apartment units statewide. And through these uncertain times, she tells me they still plan to launch this IAA Career Pathways Service Technician program. Training is free. They'll learn the basics of plumbing, electrical, fair housing, and more. Then the candidates are paired with an on-site member for this paid internship with a goal to be hired at the end.
So this is a couple-year process, but all the while they will be gainfully employed.
The program has been requested by IAA members looking to fill positions in this field.
Perfect candidate would have a high school education or equivalent. They obviously are not interested maybe in going into college. They like working with their hands.
And for people like David Creek, the opportunity to advance in your career is a big perk of his job.
I started out as a part-time groundsman, and within 5 years, I was running my own property. I was running my own 160-unit property.
David is now the director of maintenance for Hayes Gibson Property Management.
So the growth is there. The growth is what you choose it to be. In the early years of the career, there's going to be a lot of learning that's going to take place. One of the biggest things that I can say is I love the hands-on, because to me, I'm okay with reading about it in a book, but I want to get my hands on. I want to get my hands dirty.
He says a typical day on the job is busy but interesting.
Tell you, some of the challenges is we, as maintenance people, have to wear different types of hats. We got to wear a plumbing hat. We got to wear a electrical hat.
But the satisfaction of helping people makes it all worthwhile.
I don't have to sit at a desk all day long. I can get out there and I run into so many different things, which makes it amazing. When you get something fixed, it's the satisfaction that you got it accomplished.
Working for you, Lauren Casey, RTV6.
And to apply, just head to our website, hiringhoosiers.com, and click on this story. There, we will have a link to the online application. The deadline to apply, by the way, is September 7th, and the program starts on the 14th.
I'm all set to talk about a pattern change which arrives next week. We'll go beyond the 7-day forecast coming up.
Welcome back. Research shows the day before a thunderstorm can cause health issues for people with breathing problems. A paper published by the Journal of the American Medical Association shows an increase in emergency room visits for people 65 and older with breathing problems in the days before a thunderstorm. One of the study authors says the reason is due to rising temperatures along with more particulate matter in the air that can trigger breathing issues. He says the same breathing risk can apply to younger children as well. Interesting stuff, Kevin.
Weather impacts a lot of things. Let's talk about this change for next week. We'll do that in a couple minutes, but I think you'll like the new feel. Damaging wind was the story yesterday, not just in Indiana. It started in South Dakota in the morning hours, about 6 a.m., ended in the Hoosier State and Western Ohio at 8 p.m. That's 14 hours and 800 miles worth of damaging wind. Reports 70 to 90 mile per hour gusts. Okay, we have a chance tonight. Perseid meteor shower, peak activity overnight. What you do is kind of look to the northeast, but I would just take in as much sky as you can, get away from all of the lights that you can, and in your peripheral vision, hopefully you'll see a dozen or more an hour. I know they list much more than that, but I've just never had that much success in seeing a ton of these, but maybe you will. And I hope you do. We'll have to battle a little bit of cloud cover and the moonlight as well. Chance for any showers or thunderstorms, very minimal until we get to Friday, and then it's not overwhelming. 40% chance for showers and thunderstorms through that stretch. The humidity is high, but look what happens. From Sunday to Monday, the humidity falls out of the state. So we'll be much more comfortable early next week, and that'll lead to very comfortable temperatures. 59 tomorrow morning in Peru, mid-60s most locations with some patchy fog to start the day. Temperatures tomorrow back to 85, not much different than today. The wind will be light, we'll have a battle between clouds and sunshine. Chance for any thunderstorms just 20%. By the time we get to noon, pushing 80, afternoon high 84 or 85, average for this time of year. As you look at Thursday, the chance for thunderstorms still just 20%, still very humid, just a little more breeze. The chance for showers, thunderstorms there, you see those popping up late afternoon, 4 o'clock. South of Interstate 70 on Thursday, still lingering a bit into the evening hours. Thursday temperatures, Logansport and Marion, lower 80s. All along Interstate 70, mid-80s, and down to the south, where you may see the thunderstorms arrive earlier. You'll have temperatures slightly cooler. 7-day forecast, the big change arrives Monday of next week, 81 degrees with lower humidity. Then on Tuesday, you really enjoy the cooler air settling in. 70s for highs and 50s for lows. That should start a stretch of days with below average temperatures and low rain chances. That's the big 7-day forecast.
Thank you, Kevin. The wait was longer than usual, but practice for the Indy 500 begins this week. Day first, Brad Brown and driver analyst Tony Kanaan begin Trackside 6 coverage on Wednesday.
There have been so many changes to the IndyCar series this year, from the schedule to whether fans can even attend. But for at least one driver, there's always a bigger picture. Day first with tonight's Sports Extra Spotlight.
Race month certainly has a different look, a different feel, but at its heart, it's still the Indy 500. On a Zoom call, it's that thought that'll have Graham Rahal going over the next couple of weeks.
I mean, certainly there's not a day that goes by that you don't think about or dream about winning the Indy 500. Clearly winning it this year will be slightly different than maybe other years, but it all means the same.
And that's why the next time he puts on his helmet, slides into his high-powered Honda, and puts on the driving gloves, he'll tell anyone with conviction,
we have to run this race.
The next 2 weeks may come without fans in the stands, but as disappointing as that is for Central Indiana, there's a bigger picture.
Trust me, I get the heat for it on social media when I say that teams probably wouldn't live without this race. I get, of course, all the fans. Well, I don't care about the teams, Well, fine, that's great for you, but for us, we do, and we care about the jobs that it provides and the cottage industries that it provides in Indianapolis and everything else that it does for our city, the economic impact. We have to have this race.
It's a race Graham's yet to win. Last year's run ended with 25 laps to go and contact involving Sebastian Bourdais in turn 3. Next week will mark his 13th start in the 500, as dealing with adversity comes with the territory this year more than ever.
For instance, Mid-Ohio got delayed, right? And I called the engineers and chief mechanic, and the response was, hey, that's great because now we can spend a little extra time massaging on the suspension, or now we can spend a little extra time doing this or that for Indy. And I'm kind of proud of that mentality because they've kind of taken it in stride.
Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing will attack the month with 3 drivers, including 2017 Indy champ Takuma Sato and last year's front row starter Spencer Pigot. All can't wait to take off.
Still going to be the biggest race of the year and the one that I think we're all looking forward to the most.
We should be really happy and appreciate the Indy 500.
We want to go win the thing and find ourselves in victory lane.
Practice begins Wednesday. The big picture will go beyond that. Day first, RTV6 Sports.
If you thought you saw Halloween candy during a recent trip to the stores, your eyes were not playing tricks on you. Candy companies and some retailers put out Halloween candy early this year to try to make up for slowing in sales because of the pandemic. Companies like Hershey's are doing a mix of Halloween-themed candy and wrappers along with larger bags of traditional wrapped goodies. Companies expect some trick-or-treating, but also more socially distant activities.
How about that? Let me just tell you, I'm not an archaeologist, but I did find where my wife is hiding candy at the Gregory household. So don't tell her. She'll notice the supply will diminish. Temperatures, they'll be in the mid-80s tomorrow. Chance for rain very low, just like today. Amanda?
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you for making RTV6 your choice for news. Our next newscast is tonight at 11. We'll see you then.